All right, let's take a look at how we can apply arches to our profile doors. I've got a couple of cabinets out here. Okay, you can assign, and I've got my options, my pick lists, tied to my shortcut key of O. So I'm going to use that. I can assign a profile to a door. I can then assign a profile to the drawer front. And when I render it, it'll render all of the cabinets, and it knows it's got a different profile for the drawer versus the door versus this other cabinet that has none. But you can also assign on the project component, you can assign what profile to use. So you can type in the profile if you know the name, or optionally, again, using my shortcut key of O, I can assign a default profile that will be applied to everything. Now if I go back, unrender, and re-render, the second cabinet is using the default from the projects component. If you have something outlined in your, or defined in your particular cabinet, that overrides it. All right, let's take a look at things that we can do. I'll go back to the project component. You can define that in this model, you want to have arches on your, potentially have arches on your doors and drawer fronts. I'm going to set my arch height. I'm using metric, so I'm going to say 25 millimeters or 1 inch. I won't use a shoulder, so basically it'll be an arch from the left style to the right style. And I want an arch on top. And again, I'm using the Monticello profile as my default. If I render this, I still get no arches, because typically you only want arches on some of your doors. So I'm clicking on this door, I'll go in and I'll say I want a full arch. I could have also said I want a half arch. So every door or drawer front or panel that you want an arch on, you have to declare. Now render. Oh, I mustn't have saved it. When you draw arches, it does take more time to generate all of the profiles. Typically, you'll want to increase your top rail or your bottom rail, whatever is having the arches. So I'm going to go do that. Bring this up, and I can go down to my top rail and say that I want it to be 80 millimeters. It didn't really show anything because I've got the rendered door, and that's rendered based on the last known attributes. So unclick rendering, re-render, and now this door is at 80 based on what we asked for. Okay, you can go in and ask for a half arch, and the arches render based on the swing of the door. If I go back to the project component and now say that I want, let's say, a 75 millimeter shoulder, I can approximate a cathedral style door. When I use columns and rows, that one, sorry, and I'll re-render it. That's what you get. And you'll notice the rendering's not absolutely perfect. It has more problems with half arches than anything else. But it still is a really good approximation of what your doors would look like for the consumer. Everything that works before, if I go drill down to my panel and say that I want it to be glass, when I render, it has a glass insert now. And that's basically all that you need to know about how to apply arches and styles to your doors.